Hey, comic book collectors, do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code ComicCom15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.
Welcome to the one and only Comic-Con Podcast, your podcast for comic book news, reviews, and comic community drama, with your hosts, Nemesis Prime and Milton the Manimal. Are you listening?
Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Comic-Con Podcast, Season 4, Episode 31, recording this on August 1st. Holy cow, we are August 1st. It's your boy, Nemesis Prime, live and direct, and then I see somebody who looks remotely somewhere different.
Yeah.
What is it? On-site reporting?
On-site reporting from my basement of my parents' house in Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah. Just a nexus for comic book information here. That's why I had to come and see it firsthand.
Are there any comic books still at that house?
No, dude, there hasn't been comics at this house. I never actually lived in this house, so
okay.
I don't think so. I could look through. Well, I wonder if there's a closet. There's like a box somewhere maybe, but that maybe got moved or left behind. Who knows?
There you go. All right. So since Zack is doing the remote work, we're going to keep this one as fast as possible. So let's kind of get right into all of our stuff for the week. Definitely going to talk about some post San Diego Comic-Con stuff, whether it's movie news, comic book news, or some wild and crazy news that we're going to get to. But first, let's kick it into our community stuff. So real quick, as far as community, if you're listening to this early enough, whether it's on August 2nd or early August 3rd, go check out the BX Anime and Comic Expo over in the Bronx, 1315 Olmsted Ave over in the Bronx. We are one of the sponsors. I am hopefully checking it out this weekend. It's just got some things going on personally, so some things changed this week, so I don't know if I'll get a chance to go out there. But if not, make sure you check it out. And then, of course, in about 2 weeks, we have ourselves Terrificon, where we will be set up with our buddy V. Ken Marion over in Artist Alley at E6 and E7 with the exclusive, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles variant. And if you've seen, we did drop a little teaser of some giveaways. We have the exclusive metal cards, limited to 50. So for the first 50 people that purchase our variant at the booth, you're going to get a cool metal card, which is basically our cover of TMNT. And then we do have one more surprise that we're going to release probably the week of as well for the variant.
Yeah,
so,
you guys have no idea. This surprise is off the chain.
Yeah. It's a few people have seen it, and that's about it. But it's really awesome. It's probably the coolest thing that we could think of to do for the variant. Yeah. So let's kind of get right into books.
It's very apropos too for the variant. So
yeah. So no, we're not giving away a
turtle.
A turtle. I was actually going to say like a live turtle. Like we were going to bring like a turtle and be like
a turtle that we mutated. Yeah.
Not even that. Be like, here's a little red-eared slider turtle, or here's a
box turtle. Yeah. That'd be funny. We should hand out box turtles with every book. First 10 purchases, you get a box turtle.
That'd be great. Maybe we should. If we had like a little terrarium, like or a little aquarium thing, like at the booth, we could just have him right there, and we could have him with like a bandana.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
But anyway, let's kind of get right into books. I'll start off with some of my picks of the week and reads of the week. So before we get into, of course, our event stuff, going to be really Marvel heavy, I would say, this week. Not a lot of DC stuff. Not really a lot of indie stuff either. So Ultimate Spider-Man #7, still a great story. We're finally kicking into almost a Tony Stark-esque issue. The Spider-Man and Green Goblin crew, or team up, whatever you want to call it, is kind of getting the help from Otto Octavius of this Ultimates universe, and you're finding out that these suits are Stark tech, so they have like a built-in AI that they can get from it. And Green Goblin wants his dad as like the AI, and Peter's like, well, I talk a lot. I talk to myself a lot, so why don't I just have myself as the AI? And then so that's what happens. And so So now you have like this AI, kind of like how Tony Stark had like Veronica and Friday and, Jarvis and stuff like that. So, it's different, but I also like the idea of it because it does
Mhm.
like give somebody for Peter to talk to instead of just talking to himself in a comic. And I guess we're going
Yeah.
to see that as the issues go on. But so they unlock this power and then they find out that kind of like, hey, it's kind of because it's almost like the training wheels mode or like safe mode, like when Tom Holland first got his suit in his movie. So they unlock it. They're able to kind of fight each other on a little bit more power level, which is cool.
Mhm.
And then by the end of the issue, you find out that there's actually a third power or third suit, I should say, right? And that kind of sets up what the next kind of goings is for I would say, crossover because you're going to find out what's happening in those issues going forward. Um,
Yeah.
um,
The
the
voices stuff definitely you can see where, like, I mean, it almost seems like writing on the wall, right? With like
Yeah.
Norman in the ear of Harry, and it's like, okay, is this what's gonna like lead him down the dark side? Is this what's gonna
Hmm.
kind of like in this universe, it almost very much is like, and plus there's also some little like undertones as well, like Otto, right? Like there's some things he says, like when he's offering up the different voices, he's like, hey, you want Caesar, you want Mahatma Gandhi, do you want blah blah. He's like, I put myself in there as well, so you can see like even Octavius has got some signs of like sinister Octavius from like our normal MCU 616 stuff. So I really liked the undertones of this issue and like the lead-ins of like, okay, I can see where you might be going with some of this shit. So
Yeah.
it's cool. It's definitely
Definitely,
cool.
Otto or not Otto, Norman in his head is you're right, like, definitely an
Yeah,
evil side at some point, like because he beats him down, like, even his
yeah,
AI beats him down, which is
yeah,
crazy as
yeah.
his for his, like, father and son dynamic, so, next up is the Ghost Spider-Gwen number 3. So, again, we have Spider-Gwen in the 616 universe, and I know in a group chat, Zach was just like, "I gotta hear about this." So, initially when these covers started coming out and like the first issue came out, we all thought, oh, it was Craven. And then you're like, oh, it's a clone. And you're like, well, how is this a clone of Spider Woman? And then you find out that she's fighting Chameleon. And in this issue, she's tied up, and and Chameleon basically is like her, and it's kind of powered up a little bit more than his normal self. Like he can actually have their abilities, which is something different. So he's almost like a Mystique character from the X Men, and she, I guess, whatever you want. Chameleon goes on like a tyrant of like doing crime as Spider Gwen, and then you come to find out that when Spider Gwen tries to escape, she has a new power. So she's been giving a new power set, almost like Miles Morales, because it's like electricity, which I still think it's early. I'm gonna wait till it's explained to see exactly what happens and how she was able
Okay.
to escape. But they're almost kind of making her, yeah, a little bit similar to Miles with his like whatever that electricity
The
venom,
Venom
right?
Venom Blast.
Yeah, the venom blast that he could do. So again, we'll see where that happens. Last but not least for me, probably pick of the week just because there's the event books. But Black Widow Venomous.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you if you read that.
Okay, yeah. Did you?
No, the cover looks bad. I don't know
Really? Oh,
what's
it was
this
pretty
cover.
cool.
It's kind of
So
anime-ish. It's not really my thing. But
exactly,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
probably why.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's part of a lead into the Venom War stuff. So if you've been reading any of the Black Widow stuff over the past, I don't know, 6 months, you found out that she got uh she's a host of a newer symbiote, a younger symbiote, and this really fleshes out the whole symbiote itself. Like because the symbiote does, people that know, every symbiote has a name, right?
Mhm.
Like Venom, Carnage, Riot. There's a Sleeper, like that. Everyone has a name. This one doesn't. It never really had a voice, and now it finally has this chance where she's talking to it, and they go on a mission, and the symbiote actually leaves her to, basically fend for herself because it's scared. And then basically the whole issue is her training the symbiote in her mind just because it's kind of like, again, it's a younger symbiote. It doesn't know like anger or rage or any of that stuff like Carnage or
Mhm.
Venom know. And she does this whole thing with like training with mental images in her head of like Hawkeye and Nick Fury and Spider Woman. Agent Coulson's there, and then eventually they fight each other in her mind, and that kind of gives them the ability of cohesiveness, because that's always the one thing that they've really made more prevalent, I think, in the Venom movies. How like Venom needs a host that is symbiotic because obviously that's what it is, symbiotes.
Right.
So they need to be able to work together, fight together. It's not just a reaction; it's them doing the moves together. So lo and behold, you find out that the symbiote picks the name of Sliver. So, and she kind of gives her a little bit new costume other than just what she looks like with the symbiote stuff. And towards the end, it does kind of set up a little bit what's going to happen in the Venom War. So we'll see what happens with her. But I enjoyed it. I was a little good
Okay.
origin backstory of this new symbiote character called Sliver, first named appearance, I guess.
I didn't realize it was a prologue to Venom War, so I'll have to go back and check that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too much. Like even the issue doesn't say Venom War stuff, but I figured
Yeah.
because it was Black Widow Venomous, like one
Right.
shot. I figured it's kind of setting it up for the next
Yeah. I mean,
series.
she's going to take part, so it's probably a good idea to read that book to kind of get some, like,
Yeah, because then
background
it
on
also has
her.
like Alchem X stuff that's going
Mhm.
going in there as well. So I figure that'll be in there because they do create kind of like a mechanized symbiote, which could play into the series as well. I don't know, but again, I don't know until
Yeah.
we kind of start reading some of these issues. So, and then we'll be doing that event book as well. So, what about you before we get into finish up a few events this week?
Yeah, pretty light week this week. Some honorable mentions that I liked. I mean, you had Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 122, which looks like, or I'm sorry, not 122, Darkest Hour number 1, which is like kind of like the epilogue to this Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So like the Power Rangers are done. We kind of spoke about this a couple months ago. Like Power Rangers starting over, coming here soon. We're not sure if it's a reboot. We don't know if it's a continuation, a la kind of what we're seeing with TMNT currently. But I really enjoyed the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers stuff. This whole series. I'm gonna be honest. Like it probably would have hit more if I would have been like a more Power Rangers TV show guy. Like I only watched the original. Like once kind of like I watched the second iteration of the Power Rangers. When like Rocky and those guys came on, but after that, I'm not super familiar with like Power Rangers. So like as you kind of came on in this run of Power Rangers, you got like Zeo Force and like the Thunder Force, Hyper Force, whatever the hell. I'm probably butchering that stuff, but you had all these different Rangers that were like past my time when I was like almost an adult or a teenager and I wasn't watching Power Rangers. So I do feel like towards the end of this whole like run story, not even run, like the story of Power Rangers, for me, some of it got really convoluted where like I didn't know these characters, and honestly the art, because they're all human, and so like for the most part 80% of them are human, so when they're drawn outside of their like suit, like I'm like that just is a blonde chick or that's a black dude or a white guy. Like they don't really like look super different than each other. So towards the end here, some of it kind of like definitely got lost in like the story for me, but it was cool. I mean, I enjoyed reading the Power Rangers stuff like from beginning to end, and I'm definitely going to check out Power Rangers when it comes back and just kind of see where they were. But Darkest Hour was the kind of like the end one shot epilogue Omega issue, if you will, of everything. So it was cool. It was a good round out, but I think I missed some of the like finer details kind of got lost for me. But
Yeah, I hear you on that. I
you know what I
feel
mean?
like it's
Yeah,
it's
there's a
like
lot
I
of
did the
history
first
there.
season. Yeah, there's like the first season, and then like eventually, then yeah, they bring in the second team and Tommy, and then they become ninjas, and then I think there was like Thunder or
Yeah,
Power Rangers
I don't know what
Thunder Force or Turbo in there.
Turbo, Zeo,
Yeah,
Hyper.
and yeah, at
Yeah.
that point, like because I can remember being probably like 13, and my brother was like I guess 9, and like he was big in like we were both into it, but he was into like
Mhm.
the action figures because he was younger than me. So like I knew it, and I remember I'd probably seen like the first 2 movies and even the more recent movie. But yeah, like past those people, like a few of the like and I go to conventions, right? And I see all these people. They're like, oh, the Yellow Ranger from whatever series, or
Yeah.
the Black Ranger from so and so. I'm like, I have no idea who you are. Like I could tell you the original OGs just
Yeah.
because, but after that, I'm like,
Right.
I have no idea. Like
Yeah, I know Zack.
yeah.
Like, you want
I
something
mean,
the
I
Black
love
Ranger? Oh
Johnny.
yeah, that's
Like,
Zack. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Zack
I love
yeah.
they're great because Johnny does like anime voices, and then you got
Yeah.
Kimberly who just wrote the the Power Rangers The
Hmm.
Return. So it's just that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And JD and Jason David Frank would do, obviously all the big
Everything.
conventions. Like
Yeah.
he engulfed, and I think he made it more popular and didn't make
Oh
it
yeah.
like oh, this is kind of like not cool to like Power Rangers.
Right. For sure. So yeah, so that was good stuff. House of Slaughter 25. I mean, kind of honorable mention because it's. I'm pretty sure. I mean, did you read this one?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I'm off of after
Okay.
that last arc. I
So
know it's a new arc, but I probably could start
I
it
think this
again.
is the end of Jace Butcher, if I read this correctly. But it's not the end of House of Slaughter. I saw there's an issue 26 coming out, so not bad issue. It's just been kind of the story hasn't been super great, I guess, but some cool stuff happens. The two issues, obviously, and no one should really be surprised, but it's been a light week. But X-Force #1 came out. I thought it was great. I loved it. I love when I love when writers take a character like Forge, for example. So, this quick rundown on the team. You got Forge, Captain Britain, Rachel Summers, Surge, Tank, Sage, and then you have Deadpool guest stars in this issue. But Forge is leading the issue. And I love it when creators can take a character like Forge, who's been around forever, right? His power set isn't super visual, but it is very powerful and kind of can like find a way to make him more powerful. You know what I mean? So Forge, you can definitely see since the Krakoa age has got to level up. Like writers like, hey, look, I think there's more to this guy than he's not just a dude who builds shit. Like if you actually look into that skill set, like the things that you can do with that are pretty wild. And I'm going to talk about another mutant with the same aspect here coming up in my next book. But I really like this book. I like this idea that they have with Forge. Forge is trying to like fix the planet. He's built like this little orb that shows like fractures in the planet, and him and his X-Force team are going around and trying to solve them. So I think it's cool. I love the team up with Forge and Sage. I talked about it. I'm not crazy about Captain Britain these days. Betsy Braddock. I don't like where they've taken her character. I just feel like they've dumbed her down. But yeah, I really enjoyed this issue. I'm really excited to see more about Forge and how things play out. And then my pick of the week for sure is the X-Men Era of the Apocalypse #4. So the final issue of this little mini series, Apocalypse looking for his heir, kind of like a Hunger Games type situation with like 12 mutants, and each issue some of them die off, but obviously we found out last issue they're not actually dead. They're kind of just being like held in like a vat as they get to the final four. Coincidentally enough, Forge is one of the final four, but spoiler alert, if you haven't read this, I'll give you a second. Spoiler alert, that ends up being the heir of the Apocalypse. It ends up being Cypher, which is another mutant who like used to get shit on so much back in the day in the New Mutants. Like, I mean, also not a great power. Like, oh, he can speak languages. But over the years, they've really done a lot with this character and be like, yo, it's not just languages. Like now you have computers, and he understands computers, and now he understands body language, and now he understands like just language in general. It's not spoken language that he's only about.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty big role in Krakoa, and it was an understated, subtle role. And Apocalypse realizes that and kind of is like, hey, you're kind of this guy who was behind the scenes, and you were able to lie and be deceitful and subtle about it, but no one really caught you. So he upgrades Cypher. Cypher becomes the heir of Apocalypse and changes his name to Revelation. So, obviously like the Bible, the Apocalypse, you have Revelation. And he looks cool. He's like all apocalypsed out, but he's white with like gold. He looks super powered up. He's a bit menacing. It's not necessarily evil. I mean, I'm sure he's going to have a darker side to him, but he talks about just kind of being like, leading everyone on the path to protecting the world. So superpower upgrade. And as he wakes up, one last thing, as he wakes up, Apocalypse tells him like, okay, feast your eyes on your first disciples, and waiting for him is Bay the Blood Moon, one of the Araco mutants, who's like his wife, and Warlock is there also. Self-friend Doug, what's going on? So it's cool, man. I thought it was really interesting. I'm excited to see what happens with Cypher moving forward. Like I said, another mutant with like a low level power that you wouldn't. It's not like, oh, he doesn't shoot fire or laser beams out of his eyes, but if you use some creativity, which these writers do, surprisingly, some writers still have some creativity, they can like find new levels to like power up and what comics are about, man. That's what like writing new stories is about, is find a way to upgrade this character and without, you know, changing his sex or his race or his
Yeah.
gender, you know, like or whatever. Like, I don't know. Awesome. I was super excited about that. So
Nice. Yeah,
that was my
that's
pick.
cool. And it's crazy to think about because you figured the, 63, 64 is when X-Men came out, and you
Yeah,
had the OG
63.
X-Men, and they've been around forever. And yeah, they've gotten a little bit of a power upgrade, some of them. But then you have these mutants that came out in like the late 80s and 90s and even early 2000s who, yeah, they're like, you're like, ugh, they're kind of like boring. They were like
Mm-hmm.
terrible in the beginning, but you're right. People have time, they
Yeah.
can figure them out, and they upgrade who, needs to be upgraded because they are cool characters. So
I mean, if you look at a character also, not to keep going on about this, which I could do a whole hour of talk about this, but you look at a character like Iceman, you talk about original X-Men, right? Like when there's guys like, oh, he throws snowballs, and then like, oh yeah, he can control ice. But like honestly, in the 90s, someone was like, hey, look, like this guy can control ice. What about the idea that he pulls moisture out of the air? What about this idea? You go to Age of Apocalypse where they actually come up with the idea of like, okay, he can pull moisture out of the air, he can reform his body. Why? So hypothetically, he can teleport. So he can like go into the moisture and come up
yep.
there. And that's the first time you kind of see him do stuff. And it was around that time that like the Omega level stuff comes out. And like Iceman got a massive upgrade. People were just like gave more thought to his power set. And it's like, wow, there's more to this guy. There could be more to this guy that we can unlock and play with. So it's really cool stuff, man. But
Nice. All right.
yeah.
So let's kind of get real quick into our two events. So there was one book with DC, and then there was a few books on the Blood Hunt to finish out this series. So for the Absolute Power on DC, we had
Yeah.
Task Force 7, number 3. This one, and again, each issue is kind of going in deep into a Mazo who is like a Justice League character. So the last one we had the depth charge. So this time around, we have a Mazo that kind of takes the power of a Green Lantern. So we last saw this group of Justice League Society members and like basically Justice Society members like running
Mm-hmm.
from the Amazos, and he's fitting against trying to find Alan Scott because Hal Jordan is already under the control of Amanda Waller. So it's a very interesting dynamic because of who Alan Scott is, who the Green Lanterns are, right?
Yeah, he's not like your traditional Green Lantern. Like
Yes,
he doesn't have
exactly.
a ring power necessarily. Like it comes from other things. It's
Yeah.
not just that. Yeah.
So it was really the whole idea is you realize, and this whole series is how the villain. This is the whole series was how as kind of like the villain side, right? Because the main absolute power is from the hero side. This is really from the villain side. So each issue again being with the Amazos, you get this simulation of their programming basically, and you kind of see it when he's finally trying to track down Alan Scott and his team, and he has some of them, but even Amanda Waller's like, "Well, I told you to bring him back," and he's like, and he has like the choices. And it's actually on the pages. It's like written in pages. It's like almost like how a computer program would be. Like it's,
Yeah.
do you do this? It's like yeah, why or no. And every time he has this decisioning of like, do I do this? Yes or no. And eventually you get to the point where you find out that who Alan Scott is, he agrees with the Amazo to go with him, right? But he doesn't realize that I think he realizes that there's another side to just being who he is, because again, he's not part of like the Guardians of the Universe and Oa and stuff like that. It's not like a normal ring. It's a more different power than like you said, it's a different power than the
Yeah.
normal Guardians.
The Starheart has like kind of infected. It's messed up the Mazo. The Starheart got in there and messed him up. And like Justin said, you see the different, like in red is his initial programming, and green is like this, like it's almost like a angel on your right, devil on your left, like shoulder.
Mhm.
And it's speaking to him like, hey, do I do the good thing or do I do my programming? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because that Starheart has corrupted this guy. It's corrupted the Amazo. And I think Alan agrees to go because he's like, oh, there might be a crack here that I can push, because I think we've seen a weakness now in this Amazo for sure that might be
Mhm.
swayed to the side of good. So
Yeah.
It was cool. I liked, I liked the Justice Society, seeing them, which I feel like they don't a lot of times get a lot of airtime, in DC Comics too much anymore. So it's always fun. Seeing the Tower of Fate and that kind of stuff was cool. And then the Steve Trevor stuff as well in the issue, also great stuff. Like he's up to his own little mission too. So
Yeah, I love the bar that they have.
oh yeah, yeah,
that they try to find them. Like it's all
yeah.
like the magic users and stuff like that.
Faust is
So,
drunk, like talking shit.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
too funny.
yeah. So that was a good one.
And then we have on the Marvel side, we have our final Blood Hunt. So we have I was gonna say Final Fantasy, Fantastic Four number 22. We have the Midnight Suns Blood Hunt, and that little mini series, and Blood Hunt 5. So I'm not reading Fantastic Four, but I did read this issue just to kind of get the tie-in. I'm not a,
Yeah.
I don't know like what's been happening in like the Fantastic Four stuff. So I feel like you should probably help me on with this one.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, so they only had the 2-issue tie-in, and I actually really enjoyed the first issue. I think I talked about it when I read it, how it was like might have been my pick of the week in terms of Blood Hunt tie-ins. There was just something funny about the dynamic between Alicia Masters and Reed. This issue just kind of rounds out that story, and there's really not much to it. You just had Reed and Alicia trapped by themselves, and then you had the rest of the four trapped by themselves and just trying to survive. There wasn't really, a lot going on with the story. It was a decent issue, nothing crazy. I didn't like it as much as I liked the first one, but still cool. The good part is what was cool is at the end, which we'll talk about with Blood Hunt 5, but like kind of how Blood Hunt 5 ends and seeing the reaction of Reed to the big news of Doctor Doom. That's the big deal. Both Alicia and Reed being like, oh crap, okay, this is what's coming forward. So that was cool. But yeah.
Yep. Midnight Suns, the Blood Hunt, that's kind of good ending, but it also kind of sets up some stuff going forward, because we do know there's a couple of the tie-in, like not tie-ins, but I guess little mini series or ongoing series that are going to be post Blood Hunt stuff. And then we have Blood Hunt 5, right?
Yeah.
It's the Avengers fighting the Blood Coven, Brielle fighting her father, and of course, what we talked about in Strange Academy, the last issue, and also in Blood Hunt 4 is Strange gives up his in this issue, it moves very fast. Strange gives up his power to Doctor Doom to become the Sorcerer Supreme, and then he uses the Strange Academy kids to help destroy like the Dark Dimension. And yeah, I'm a little, here, and again, this is what we're gonna get into. We're also gonna get into like obviously San Diego Comic-Con, but they're really pushing. So they're really pushing the Doom thing, right, of Sorcerer Supreme, and that's gonna lead into what's going farther. I guess Doctor Doom he's not revived, right? They didn't revive him because he kind of uses his soul and gets sucked into Doom. My one thing is, they're really treating Miles like a piece of shit. I'm sorry. Like, it's like they don't know what to do with him, but now he's still going to stay a vampire. Like, how are you going to stay a vampire post this? And we kind of knew this because of the titles that were coming out after this with him, and you see him still as a vampire. So it's like, how does he have his own title still? Like, how is this going to be presented as like, oh, I'm still a vampire? It's kind of like when Jubilee was a vampire, but it's different because Jubilee was a mutant. Like,
yeah. So I kind of wanted to talk about that because it kind of ties into. So I guess the ending of Blood Hunt, in my opinion, was a little. I mean, we kind of saw it coming, right? Like we knew it was going to be a situation where, like, oh, it's not really Blade, and we're going to keep him alive, and then, nothing really happens. The bad guy gets kind of taken down. Who the bad guy was like a, not a really well-known bad guy. But it sets up this, obviously at San Diego, they announced a One World Under Doom theme that's coming out. So. But the really confusing thing to me, or not confusing, and I don't know, let me see what your take is on it, because I don't feel like they explained it super well, or maybe other people are like, oh, duh, obviously it was that. But at the end, the sun comes out, Dracula and Miles are standing in the sun, and Dracula makes a comment like, we're being blessed for saving the world. Well, here's my question. Is it just those two vampires who now can walk in the sun, or is it all vampires? And here's the question: if it is all vampires can now walk in the sun, then nothing's changed from the eternal night that just occurred because now vampires can be anywhere at all time, right? So like I'm hoping it would make sense, I guess, more sense if it's just Dracula and Miles, and maybe it's only for a short amount of time. But like I said, if all vampires can now walk in daylight, how is this any different than the Dark Force dimension making it nighttime all the time?
Yeah, I guess it's like Brielle, Dracula, and Miles. Yeah, it's odd. It's definitely odd. But again, that kind of gives more power to Dracula if they ever do something with him.
Yeah.
And I would assume something like with Midnight Suns, but he could be a villain down the road. So we'll see what happens there. So, but yeah, and then it kind of sets up, like you said, it sets up what they announced the One Nation under Doom.
Yeah.
Going to be interesting, and everybody obviously is going crazy for not only this whole past couple days. That's all I've been seeing on my Instagram feed is every Doctor Doom book. All of a sudden, everybody's got Doom books they've been hiding.
Except Fantastic Four or 5.
It's like nobody's got that, but everybody's got this modern stuff. Some random like Exiles or like the infamous Iron Man or like what if Doctor Doom was Sorcerer Supreme? There's just like
what did I see? Books. I saw another one right now that just came out that was like Timeless. The Timeless issue that showed in the future of Doom, like wearing the old Supreme, like, I first called it here, but like, I don't know. I feel like now you're seeing everyone try to make these connections. Like, I don't know. I guess are we rolling into San Diego talk now?
Yeah. All right. So we're done. So that's our stuff for our events. Again, we'll be continuing the DC side for Absolute Power, and then our next thing would be obviously the Venom War that will be going back with the weekly stuff. So, all right, let's get right into San Diego Comic-Con. And I'm sure, listen, I know everybody's been talking about it. I know everybody's probably sick of hearing about it. But let's talk about the big news at Hall H, which was the announcement of Robert Downey Jr. coming back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, will be playing Doctor Doom. And I think I read that he is being Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, that was variant.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to announce 2 things. That obviously, and then you have the Russo brothers coming back to do both Avengers Doomsday, retitling it from Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. So go.
Yeah, I mean so we'll talk about like I'm sure it'll be blended in here, this spec of all the Doom books, and like everyone talking about, it's when Tony Stark became Doom. And I'm just like, I don't feel like any of you were paying attention because it was immediately said, he's like, and playing Victor, we can only find one person to play Victor Von Doom. And then everybody's, announce Robert Downey Jr. So like, obviously it's not Tony Stark as Dr. Doom, it's Victor Von Doom. Now, that being said, could that switch? Could that be a whole, smoke and mirrors type thing? It could be. But from what information we have received right now, he is playing Victor Von Doom, who happens to just look like Tony Stark, I guess, in the MCU. I don't know. There's so much to unpack on that. Like, I feel like we saw this coming with all the Jonathan Majors stuff. I honestly think the right solution would have been to just stay the course and replace Jonathan Majors and played it off like a variant. I mean, you could have easily been like, I'm the real Ken.
Yeah, like
that guy thought he was the real one, and I've been playing that guy the whole time, and find a different actor, like, and stay the course.
Yeah, you're in the multiverse. Like, how hard is that?
Like, I mean, shit, you just cast Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, so how is it difficult to, so I feel like they should have stayed the course. I'm really worried about the waste. I feel like it's a waste of Dr. Doom on multiple levels. I think one, you're wasting the last big baddie of the Marvel Universe, in my opinion. Now, also my fear is you have Robert Downey Jr., who we know is an amazing actor. What if he does an amazing job with this character of Dr. Doom? You have to know we're not getting him past these 2 movies. So then when the Fantastic Four show up and we get recasted for Dr. Doom, which you inevitably you have to, when you have Dr. Doom show up in the Fantastic Four movie and you get a different actor, now he may not fucking live up to, how good Robert Downey Jr. was. And now you have a second-rate Dr. Doom, which has already been 2 second-rate Dr. Dooms. People have not been happy with this in a franchise that already struggles. I don't feel like it's a good look. I feel like it's very risky. And I also just think, everyone can see this. I feel like everyone sees through this. Everyone sees it like this was This was a desperation call right here. Like,
Agreed.
Marvel has not been doing well. What do? Oh, we don't have any ideas. The House of No More Ideas. Let's get Robert Downey Jr. back and the Russo brothers right our ship. What's going to happen too with their legacy, right? Like, what if these movies suck? I don't feel like anyone's thinking about that. Everyone's just, oh, it's going to be so great. It's going to be so good. What if they're not? And now it ruins the Russo brothers' legacy in like the Marvel universe and RDJs. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think this was the right move.
Yeah,
So.
I guess it's a it's definitely, a 50-50 shot. It's definitely a, two sides of a different coin. Me personally, I don't like it. I agree with you.
Mhm.
I think he should have been gone and done with Iron Man. That was the idea. Like, yeah, if you want to bring him back for Secret Wars as a variant of Iron Man, that's fine,
Yeah, that'd
because
have
we
been
know
cool.
that's okay. But you're bringing him on as Victor Von Doom when he's already, and people were like, well, there's Johnny Storm and Chris Evans has played many characters, and so and so has played. I can't even think of other people. Like, the chick from Eternals was two different characters, but
Yeah,
nobody was.
Gemma Chan. Yeah,
Yeah, and then yeah, like who? But that's like
so it's not the
F
same.
list characters. Yeah, it's not the same. It didn't make an entire 10 years of Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And
Um,
Chris Evans, Johnny Storm was not part of the MCU. So that
yeah,
was like way before. It was part of the Fox universe. That's not the same thing. It'd be different if you played Johnny Storm in a Fantastic Four movie in the MCU and then back as,
yeah,
Captain America. But
but
you're also taking the main person from the MCU, the main actor from the MCU,
yeah.
and bringing it back. So, like you said, it's not the same.
Like, how are they going to bring a Doctor Doom into post Secret Wars?
No.
So again, what they're doing is they're setting up. And then what I've read is that Doom is going to be introduced in the Fantastic Four movie, either mid or post credit scene. So he's technically in that real quick, and then you'll see him in Doomsday. Doomsday, right? That's the name of the movie.
Yeah, Doomsday.
And then you'll get him in Secret War. So I assume that they're more so going. I would think they're more so going in the 2015 Hickman than the OG one, but
Sounds like it. Yeah.
we still don't officially know kind of like where they're going to go. So whatever, if you want to pick up books as far as spec, you could find it for both. I would just pick them up if you can.
Check in that
Um,
Molecule Man. I mean, if they're going 2015 Secret Wars, that's the main character, Molecule Man.
yeah. But from the flip side, as far as if you want it or you like it, I mean, you got to give it to Feige. Like, they are in the shitter. They can't do
Yeah.
movies. So it's like desperation. Like, yeah, this is what we got to do. Like, we got to right the wrong. So maybe casual viewers who go, because, yeah, I figure it's more of like a 70-30 split, or even maybe like, no, I don't think a 50. I would say it's 70-30, where 70% of the people that go to see these movies are like diehards like us, that people listen to
Mhm.
us, and, people that we watch. The other 30% are more the casual ones. So they're just like, oh, I know the character. That's cool. Let's go. Like, they just want to see a
Yeah.
good movie. It'll make money, right? So you got to give it to them. Here's my thing. Like, okay, Kevin Feige, if you realize that this is the shit that's going on, that we need to bring back, like Robert Downey Jr. to really hype it up, to bring the Russo brothers back to really hype it up, to do two great movies, maybe Kathleen Kennedy should look at this on the Star Wars side and be like, yeah, maybe I should do something to really the Star Wars books, Star Wars
I think
series.
think you're stretching, bro.
I know I'm stretching, but that's
That's
just
wishful
me.
thinking, dude. That's wishful thinking.
Really take a page out of Kevin Feige's book or
They have
something.
no. Kathleen Kennedy and the Star Wars universe has no self awareness, dude. They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
But
don't know. I mean, like you said, like you can't put it past them. I mean, this was like massive news, right? I mean, massive, massive news. But I did read an article that like I read something that said, like the initial everyone was super hyped, but as the days have gone by, people are now kind of switching thought processes on it. I think everyone was just so surprised and like, holy crap, it's coming back. And then like we were talking about, they think about it and they're like, wait a second, I don't know about this. So time will tell, I guess.
yeah. So that's the huge movie news. I mean, there's other movie stuff that came out of San Diego, but I feel like there's nothing that can trump that and even come close to that. So let's kind of get into some comic book news again. We're gonna run down. Let's run down some of the Marvel stuff that came over from the Marvel panel The next big thing. So there are, oh boy, there's about 4 different things leading into like I guess the tail end of this year and then really into next year. So I'm going to kind of set these up. So they did set up the second year of the Ultimate line. They do have a Ultimate Universe 1 year #1 coming out. That's going to debut 2 new major characters in the Ultimate Universe. We also have the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. So we got some more news on that. So we're going to talk about that, as well as a new West Coast Avengers, and then like Mr. Manimal said, the One World Under Doom. So let's talk about the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. So we talked about this, and as we've seen now, the uh, Sorcerer Supreme is now Doctor Doom. So Doctor Doom is actually granting Spider-Man 8 extra lives to serve a higher purpose in his Amazing Spider-Man storyline. So interesting enough, the deaths of Spider-Man began. The world has changed. Doctor Doom is Sorcerer Supreme, but has no plans to spend his time like his predecessor. Each year, Doctor Strange would use every ounce of his power and experience to save the world from an evil god and his science. This year, Doctor Doom is delegating this task to Spider-Man. The leader of Latveria has given Spider-Man a new magic-powered suit and 8 extra lives with which to save the world. True believer, they won't be enough. So now what we thought about is like way different than what we thought, what we could think about what this 8 deaths meant. So, now that we found out some more information, what do you think about this?
I'm intrigued. I'll check it out as time comes on. We get some more information. I think I'll be more interested. I'm a little interested by it. I think there's a purpose to it. I'm not sure if I'm less or more interested because it's part of like his main story. I thought it was going to be like an out of continuity type story, like an Elseworlds type thing. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'll definitely keep my eye on this one.
All right. Another one that we have out of the San Diego Comic-Con is the Jerry Dugan and Dan Kim's new West Coast Avengers. So you got Iron Man, War Machine, and Spider-Woman, as well as Firestar. And you have this crazy addition to the West Coast Avengers team in Ultron as more of a redemption arc. So West Coast Avengers, Ultron returns redeemed. Iron Man and War Machine have put together a team of Avengers, one that includes villains seeking a path to redemption. Their case study, Ultron, who against all odds seems to be walking the straight and narrow for now. But does the successor of one guarantee that the success of all? Spider-Woman and Firestar have their doubts. And can any amounts of heroic really absolve Ultron of his past?
I saw this and I was intrigued by this. I mean, I like this idea, and it seems like it's not going to be like it's going to be multiple, right? It seems like they're implying like, hey, they're going to start taking different villains. So Ultron is just the first one. Who knows? Maybe like an arc, 6 issues, and maybe he'll move away, and then there'll be a new one. I bet you'll see characters like I would think characters like old school Thunderbolts characters like Songbird possibly show up. Them, but Ultron as like a like you're talking about a full-time villain. It's funny. As I first saw this, this is a really cool idea. But now I'm actually thinking about how I have bitched in the past about how they turn all the villains good, and now I'm wondering. now I'm like, now I'm fighting with my own opinions of the past, right? Because Ultron for sure is like a character that's never been good. I mean, I know we've had the times when he's been merged with Hank Pym, but
but maybe this is the plan. Like, he's trying to be good, but it's really deep down. It's like he's totally flipping at the end, and I would like to see this. I would like to see exactly like maybe like you said. So 6 issues, he's kind of good. They kind of maybe they keep him and they bring in other villains to redeem. And then by the end, all the villains that have been redeemed actually turn and go against those West Coast Avengers. So that would be kind of like my idea of where they should go, but who knows if it'll actually happen.
Yeah, I'm interested in it. It's an interesting title, and I think it's definitely something I'll check out. I like Jerry Dugan. So yeah, interested.
Next up, we have, like I said, the Ultimate Universe #1. So in addition of setting up the second year of the Ultimate line, Ultimate Universe 1 year, 1 year in #1 debuts 2 major characters for Marvel. So it's been a year since the Maker was locked away and the Marvel Ultimate Universe was left in the hands of his villainous council. And in that time, heroes around the world have risen up, determined to fix this broken world. Now, with 1 year left until the leaders return, the Makers Council launches a bold plan to wipe out these heroes. The oversized one shot sets up the stage for the year 2 of the Ultimates line and includes the debut of the Ultimates version of 2 major Marvel characters. So they don't say who, but on the cover,
Mhm.
we do get to see Omega Red. We get to see Moon Knight in there. Well, Moon Knight's kind of already in there. Magic, Colossus, Firestorm. Oh god, not
Sunfire,
yeah, Sunfire. Because there's too many fires.
Silver
And
Samurai.
yeah,
Looks like the Hulk character. We saw Omega Red in the Ultimate Invasion storyline, or the mini. These are all like the bad guys who are like the council, right? So um, I think it's gonna be cool to one shot from like the villains aspect of like, and it says like you just read, like they're going after and trying to like determined to like stop the heroes from like fixing things. So we'll get like a villains aspect book, which I think will be really cool.
Yeah,
So.
and we know that there's a little bit more coming out from the titles that are already. You know, we're going to get the Ultimate Doctor Strange and Ultimate Hawkeye's coming in a lot of these other issues, especially in the Ultimates. So I think this is a good thing, especially, and having this council of villains is pretty cool as well. So
yeah, especially since the majority of them in the 616 are all heroes.
exactly.
So that's really cool.
And last but not least, we talked about it earlier a little bit, the One World Under Doom. So discover why the multiple Marvel Universe submits to Doom next week in Blood Hunt 5, even though we've already talked about that a little bit. But stay tuned for more information on the upcoming Starling development for the future of Marvel Comics. So coming in 2025 is One World Under Doom. So again, not much is said about this, but again, they're really bringing Doom full force. And I feel like they kind of did the same thing with Kang when they tried to push Kang for,
like
the
the timeless
cinematic world.
books, right? The timeless books were coming out
Yeah.
every year. Like it's like a big deal.
Yeah. So it was really interesting the way they did that. But, now you have Doom taking over as Sorcerer Supreme. You're going to get this One World Doom. Like they're really pushing him. The big announcement at San Diego. Like this is something that's obviously been in the works for like months and months. This isn't just anything new. So, yeah. I'm in it. Like I'm in for it. Doom is definitely going to be somebody. I feel like he should totally be still a villain. I know he's kind of like he said the Strange is, I'll give you back your power once I've saved the world, and he hasn't where technically he hasn't saved the world from what he wants to do, so he was not going to give up that power so soon. So, what do you think about Doom?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, Doom is definitely an interesting character. So like I'm down to check out what's going on with him and see where they go with it. I don't know. Is there, the timing is very convenient, right? Like you said. But I mean, regardless, I probably would have checked this story out even without the announcement of like Robert Downey and all that stuff. So, I think it's gonna be cool.
Nice. So a lot of news coming out of San Diego, like we said, for Marvel Comics, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we're going to end with one more comic book article. I feel like this is just something that's up everyone's alley if you're an old school movie fan. So this was announced at San Diego. So Dynamite announces new Terminator comic of Declan Shalvey. So the Terminator is back in a new comic book series revealed at San Diego Comic-Con. The fight for tomorrow begins today, 40 years after the rogue artificial AI Skynet sent killing a machine time traveling from 2029, which is in 5 years, to 1984 to assassinate Sarah Connor and in James Gunn. Jesus, I can't read today. James Cameron's The Terminator. Dynamite is revealing to all new chapter in the future war between humans and machines. San Diego Comic-Con kicked off with the publisher announcing the new Terminator comic, a present set anthology series from award-winning Declan Shalvey, who's currently writing Thundercats. So and this is actually the 40th anniversary of Terminator, and this is going to be hitting in October. And this what's actually really cool about this article. So at the bottom of this article, and this is over from comicbook.com, they do show a little bit of what they're talking about as far as I guess not the storyline, because it's not going to be it's not going to be a reboot. it's going to be, you know, an anthology, like they said. But
Mhm.
I find this really interesting. So it says Dynamite's The Terminator marks the franchise's first comic book series since IDW and Dark Horse crossover Transformers vs. Terminator in 2020. The boys publisher, being, you know, Dark Horse, released Terminator 3 Rise of the Machine comic book sequel called Terminator Infinity in 2007. The second part of its T2 saga, Terminator Revolution, was 2009, and the crossover Terminator RoboCop was Terminator RoboCop Kill Human in 2012. So we haven't had an ongoing Terminator in a very long time. It's always been
Yeah.
these little mini series. So you really got to go back to almost like the 90s when there was a true Terminator comic.
Mhm.
So this is actually interesting because Terminator is such a great series. I know, like, you know, T1 and T2 are great.
I
Salvation
like
is,
T. I like T3. I like
yeah,
T3.
okay, yeah. I'll give you T3 isn't definitely in the Salvation is probably the best one for the simple fact. Well, I consider Salvation my favorite just because it's the only one that's actually in the future. Like, you know, we've always wanted that. We always wanted to
Mhm.
see, you know, post Judgment Day. I just recently watched for the first time in a long time the more recent one with
Is
the
it
girl.
Genesis? Genesis?
No, was
Oh,
Genesis?
the one
Was it?
before that. Genesis had wasn't I haven't seen the most. Well, Genesis had Daenerys Targaryen in it, right? And then there was the one
Yeah, but I
before that, maybe.
no. So there was the one where like John Connor's bad and he was like yeah, Genesis was the terrible one. It's Dark Fate. It was
Oh, I
2008.
didn't watch. I never watched Dark Fate.
Oh, you should go watch Dark Fate. That one's
That's the
good.
most recent one, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it brings back Linda Hamilton as Sarah.
Mhm.
Um, and then also Arnold's in it. But yeah, like Genesis is like awful, like
Yeah.
just god awful.
I think I've seen Genesis one time. I barely remember it.
Yeah, and then they had that
Um,
Fox show, the Sarah Connor
I
Chronicles.
loved that. That was awesome.
Yes, yeah.
I
That
loved
was so
that.
cool.
Dude, I'm a massive Terminator fan. Like, and honestly, by you just telling me that in Dark Fate John Connor becomes bad, I have zero interest in watching it because John Connor to me is like the fucking hero of all heroes. In fact, like I Salvation was cool, but the thing I hated the most about Salvation, I was so excited because it was Christian Bale. It was right off the height of like Dark Knight stuff, and I was
Hmm.
like, Christian Bale as John Connor, this is amazing. And then he had such like a minor role. I felt like in the movie because it was all Sam Worthington as this like stupid Terminator
Yep.
character. I hated it, and it really bummed me out. I felt like I got tricked, and yeah, I'm a massive Terminator fan. I love the lore of Terminator. I think it's like so cool and awesome. Um, so I'm excited for this series. I'll definitely be reading this, and I love the stuff Declan's doing on Thundercats. So uh, yeah, hey, this is gonna be great. I'm really
Yeah.
pumped about this.
They talk about so the plans to kill Sarah Connor and her son, future resistance leader John Connor, have failed, but that isn't going to stop the genocidal Skynet. If at first don't succeed, it's going to expand the theater of operations. There are still a few more avenues into the past to try that will allow to eliminate the human resistance before it even starts. Skynet and its terminators are determined to stamp out the pivotal figures in history
Mhm.
before they lead to the predecessors being smashed into cyclone shrapnel.
And that's kind of what the. Oh, sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
This new front this new front in the time war comes with Terminators dispatched all across the globe and throughout time to target not only current resistant fighters, but also their ancestors, as well as an unlucky souls caught in the crossfire. Though at first it may not seem that there's a wide range of secondary objectives, as they are straightforward or critical as the original missions of the T-800 and T-1000. The sheer scope of their new warfare defies that. Time is literally on Skynet's side when all of history becomes a war zone. Suddenly, nowhere and no when is safe.
Yeah, and that's kind of what was the theme of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Like you see that like she goes back and she's killing like John Connor's because they can't find Connor. He's like off
Yep.
the grid. And it goes killing like his top generals. And so I always thought that was a really cool story too. I like Rise of the Machines. I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, it's like because
Yeah.
it's the first time that you actually see Skynet just turning on. Like you see like the
Right.
tiny, um,
Yeah.
like the ships. I can't think of what the ships are called. Hunter killers,
Yeah.
and it's just yeah, it's cool. It's
It's
a
a good
really
one.
good going forward. Like I think that
Yeah.
the Terminator stuff has such, like you said, has such great lore.
Hmm.
Even like the video games expand on that, and they're cool, and just the idea of like a Terminator. And with that being said, I don't know, did you see the trailer for Terminator Zero, the anime that's coming at the end of
Mm-mm.
this month on
No,
Netflix? Oh, dude, it's pretty good.
I'll check
Um,
it out.
yeah, it's supposed to be like Cameron's like original idea for Terminator, and because it doesn't have like Sarah Connor or any of them like that, it's completely different, but it looks really cool. Like just the idea of cartoonish anime style of the Terminators is just something completely different. So
Yeah.
but
Cool.
that's it for us. Again, make sure you go check out Terminator coming in October. You can go ahead and pre-order it from Dynamite. I would love to get Declan on here to talk both Thundercats and the upcoming
Yes.
Terminator. So we definitely going to put out some feelers if we can. From myself, just make sure you go ahead and follow me on Whatnot. Tons of Whatnot shows right before Terrificon. Again, Terrificon is in a few weeks. Also, bookmark those Terrificon shows if you're not going and you want to get our variant. I'll be dropping the variant there as well as some other um, incentive variants. And that's it for myself. What about you, man?
No, nothing, man. I'm just counting down the days. We got 2 more weeks, and we're good to go, man. Can't wait. I'm super excited to see everyone in the community. Make sure if you are there, if I don't know you, I know there's people in the community I've never met before, and you may be a listener. Please, please, please come up, say hi, grab a beer, and talk. Don't be afraid. Like there's nothing scary. So come talk to us, introduce yourself, tell us you're a listener, and man, I'd love to meet you. I'd love to have a beer or just hang out and talk comics. So looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun with our pal V Ken Marion in Artist
Yeah.
Alley. E6 and E7. It's gonna be a good fun 3-4 days, 3 days at the show, 4 days at the, just the con in general. So whenever you get there, stop by and say hi. Even if you don't pick up the variant, just we got tons of stuff. We'll be, chit chatting and just doing some cool stuff. So
Yep.
that's it for season 4, episode 31, and we'll catch you all next week. Later.
Later.
Hey, comic book collectors. Do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code ComicCom15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.